Producers, the prelude to episode 72. This week we are going to be talking about Hudson Hawk. I'm going to be talking about a couple of fairly newish movies onto streaming platforms, such as Gemini Man and It Chapter 2, as well as Rambo Last Blood. Travis will be joining us in a few minutes, but I did want to just point out, yes, the audio version of episode 71 has not yet gone live because I have been working crazy fucking hours. Hooray! And that will be going up tonight. So anyone who likes to listen to this in the car, because it is a fairly long show, we do appreciate you listening. And Travis has just come on. Let's get him involved. There he is, looking sexy. How you doing, Travis?
I'm fine and dandy.
Excellent. I was just doing a little bit of a prelude. Incidentally, this episode is brought to you by our executive producer, Mr. Eric Forrest. Please go out and support him at madscienceatwork.com.
What kind of things will one find on madscienceatwork.com?
All sorts of things, a genuine cornucopia of garage-based physicity.
I do recall, I'll never forget the pumpkin thing he made for your Halloween party a few years ago.
Yeah, pumpkin pie, yeah. That was a pump.
So, yeah, that's it's cool shit abounds. Yeah.
He is very good. He I don't know if he's been doing much of it recently because of the new addition to his family, but he does make a lot of very cool and sort of people would say that it's steampunk inspired jewelry and things like that, but I think that's to do it a bit of a disservice to say that it's really just steampunk jewelry.
There's like a little label on things.
Yeah. But he's had an exhibition at the Raw Makers Market Festival over in Flemington, and he's doing some really fun stuff over there. So definitely go and check him out. But this is the official start to episode 72 of Armchair Producers, your one and only show for people not sitting in armchairs, nor producers talking about movies. And
we produce this, that makes us producers.
Not necessarily quality producers, but
there is no promise of quality in that title. And there are producers. You know, I mean, if it was called quality armchair producers, then they might have a claim against us for false advertising or something. But
I feel like if we were called quality armchair producers, we'd have to have a genuine jingle, like an old school radio jingle, like for
that would be amazing.
Anyone wants to make that would be fantastic. The worse the better. So as I was saying to the people before you popped on, Travis, we are going to be talking about our next chain movie following on from what did we watch? The King of Comedy with Robert De Niro, directed by Martin Scorsese. We followed on to Hudson Hawk, I think a now cult, infamous movie for being one of the big flops, especially one of the big flops for Bruce Willis. We had a chance to, because for anyone who doesn't know, anyone who's not in Melbourne, we have been put back into lockdown because people are stupid, the government is stupid, and no one was taking it seriously. But we did have an opportunity, Travis and I, as well as much of my D&D party, to go out and experience the Wizard's Cauldron, where it was a birthday present for me, or a belated birthday present, where we sort of it was interactive theater-ish thing, creating cocktails, and we all dressed up as wizardy types and things. But Travis and I got to talk just briefly about Hudson Hawk, and I think we both agreed. This is brilliant in its absurdity. Oh, I've lost Travis's audio. Are you back? It's still not working. Interesting. So I am just going to make up what he says. He's saying, George, you're the most magnificent man in the world. Oh, he's just logged off. Damn it. Yeah. So Hudson Hawk, people might not necessarily know it. Oh, he's back. Let's see.
Any better now?
That's better. I can hear you now.
I don't know what happened.
Neither do I.
I was going to say, I felt like brilliant might be a strong word for Hudson Hawk, but it's certainly not as bad as... Look, it's actually the first time I've ever sat down and watched Hudson Hawk from start to finish. And I think people are like, how have you never seen this film? And I'm like, I think it's its reputation as a historic flop. Like a turkey of epic proportions, at least from a business perspective, well, and a critical perspective as well. Kind of going, well, do I really want to sit through that? I think having watched it now from start to finish on the weekend, I just don't think people got it. I think it might have even been a little bit ahead of the game. A little bit like, say, one of my other favourite films from the 90s, Last Action Hero, which everybody panned as a flop. But if it had been released, 10 years later, maybe even 20 years later, it would have been the whole very meta nature of that film would have really clicked in the more modern times. And I feel like the sort of wacky heist film this is may have fit better in amongst the world of Ocean's 11.
I don't know. I don't know if I put it in Ocean's 11.
I'm not quite in the same category, but Ocean's 11 was a remake of a wacky, goofy 60s caper film. And it was done a little bit more seriously. But at the end of the day, it's not a very serious caper film. Where this is a caper, this is a different level of silly. To Ocean's 11. But I feel like in a world where those kind of films were made, where it's just a bunch of big movie stars kind of winking at the camera and having a good time, this might have made a little bit more, might have found a more receptive home than it did in the early 90s. I think I remember it being marketed as a big action movie.
Yeah, I think so.
That's probably what people were expecting of Willis at the time, coming off Die Hard and all those films. And maybe maybe that's part of its problem as well. Was it was being sold again? It was one of those films that they didn't know how to sell it. So they sold it
I think there's always a few that kind of slip through the cracks of, we've got this star involved, or it's from this director, but it's a completely different genre to what most people will be used to them making. Let's market it to that particular thing. Like one of the famous examples that I think of is Donnie Darko.
Yeah,
the trailers for that, it was cut together like some kind of slasher horror movie. It's like, that ain't it.
I still employ what I call the Donnie Darko rule for years. Trudy would refuse to watch it. Oh, it was terrible. It's a shit movie. I'm like, it's not a shit movie. It's just not the movie they sold you.
Absolutely right.
That's different, right? Surely you can't. Or like M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, which was being sold again as a sort of a very spooky horror film, which kind of was for half, but then turned into something else. So it's not uncommon, but this film is, make no doubt about it, ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. The story is absolutely absurd, but I just feel like everybody involved seems like they're having a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and hence so. I kind of had a good time as well. Like, it wasn't very taxing on the brain. Perfect for Isolation 2, Electric Boogaloo, which we're in now, but we're almost in on the weekend. So it was like I'm just having fun with this. Like, it's stupid, but for some reason, this brand of stupid kind of worked.
Yeah, I really like just the concept of cat burglars who time their burglaries to songs. Because that's actually really kind of a unique, fun, alternative way of doing it. Because it's always just been sort of like the smooth criminal who knows just effortlessly kind of glides from situation to situation. And these guys, you only get to see them really do it twice.
And the thing is that they didn't actually do that very well. Like, I kind of picked it up. Like, early on, he'd be like, you're talking about a song, and then Bruce Willis would go, 3 minutes, 27 seconds. You'd be like, I assume he's talking about the length of a song, and he's memorized them for some sort of nefarious you call what he does nefarious purposes. I'm like, you're right. That would have been a really cute, cool angle. If you're sort of thinking, I'm thinking like Baby Driver, right?
Yeah.
You know, like it's something like that where he's got the song playing on his iPod and he'll start driving as soon as the song finishes. You know, obviously that's a much later film, but you know, that kind of thing. If you could have shown one of the first scenes had been him, you know, completing maybe the robbery he got caught and sent to jail for to a particular song, it would have made sense that he does that.
Yeah, I feel like this movie, this concept, it's fake.
Well, I'm not going to hold my breath considering how badly it was done.
No, but I think that idea of, like, if you've got someone that is kind of a little famous for being musically inclined, like, think early 2000s Johnny Depp being cast as Hudson Hawk, and it being a bit more rocky music rather than this, like, swinging and that sort of stuff. That has marketability. If you transplant that to now, like, fuck, if they got, like, Tom Holland, because of everyone fucking loves his lip sync battle umbrella thing that's always online. If they got him, and why not? His older partner is Robert Downey fucking Jr. That would put bums in seats for that casting alone. And then the fact that it's got that musical element, it could work.
Maybe it might be. We might have missed this moment now, considering again, Baby Driver exists. Musical heist film, kind of been done fairly recently. But yeah, I would be interested to see such an attempt. It's utterly strange. Like, it's some of its stars, which is interesting. I mentioned earlier some of it. I felt like the stars looked like they were having a good time making this film, whereas apparently Richard E. Grant did not.
No.
There's this quote I read online that he had been complimented by the British film critic Mark Kermode, who I'm a fan of. I quite like his stuff, as film critics go. He told him he was one of the few people who liked the film, and he said something like, "It's a giant steaming pile of donkey turd, and you're an idiot for liking it." I'm like, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Richard E. Grant did not have a good time.
I feel like it's his performance in it perfectly matches Sandra Bernhard, who is the connection from King of Comedy, everyone. That just almost pantomime level of over-exaggerated emotion and comical expression, that hyper-reality, hyper-insanity. And it's almost like, quite often you can sort of like see when an actor doesn't like being in a movie because they're unemotional and they don't care, and it's sort of like, oh, whatever, they're sort of barely engaged. This is almost like the antidote for that. It's sort of like, I don't like this so much, I'm just gonna fucking go nuts.
Yeah, it's interesting, but you got to wonder sometimes: where did that come from? Like, did that come from? This is what the script and the director calls for? Is someone who's mustache twirling, villain from, as you sort of said, a Christmas panto almost. Yeah. Or was it what Richard brought to the table, or was it him? He's turned up, and you sort of said he does actually sort of match Sandra Bernhard quite well. And from what I can tell, and having watched King of Comedy last week, I feel like this is her sweet spot.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of over the top. She was wacky or she was dark in that film, but very over the top sort of performance style. And did Richard just come along and say, you're playing opposite Sandra, and go, well, I'm just going to match her with this? It'd be interesting to know. I don't think we're going to find too many interviews where Richard's talking about what inspired his performance in this film, from what I've heard. But
and now a retrospective of Hudson Hawk.
I am such a huge fan of his, though. Like, I mean, I think earlier in the year or late last year, whenever we did the show, like, he was literally the only good thing about the last Star Wars film. The Rise of Jedi Skywalker, or whatever the fuck that thing was called. I honestly can't even remember. Was it Rise of Skywalker?
Rise of Skywalker. Okay,
right, yeah. I've actually kind of blacked out much of it from my memory. But I was like, Richard E. Grant was so perfect as an Imperial officer.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, why did you wait until the third film to cast him in this role?
Yep.
And then give him such a pussy exit? Like, Oh, he deserves so much better. He was so great in that.
Yeah.
And you know, we had a conversation on the weekend about some of our favorite things, and I suspect, spoiler alert, people, I suspect we'll be watching a Richard E. Grant film next week. But it's not like, it's not like, oh shit, no, Richard E. Grant. Which one are we gonna? It's like more like it's gonna be, fuck, which one do we pick?
Yeah.
But the one I obviously the obvious choice is Withnail and I, but my personal favorite non-Withnail and I Richard E. Grant film is L.A. Story, which is again I think one that was kind of overlooked at the time, and maybe I'd be interested to see how it holds up 30 fucking years later.
That is terrifying to think that.
It was almost 30 years ago. But yeah, so I mean, Richard's great in this film, and I didn't pick up that he was not having fun, because I was just sort of having fun every time he was on screen. I wanted more Richard E. Grant, because honestly, I had absolutely no idea what was going on in this film. I guess we honestly don't think it
actually even matters.
It doesn't. Should we give a synopsis of a plot? Essentially, we have Bruce Willis is a recently released from jail cat burglar who is essentially blackmailed into completing one last job, which turns into at least 3 last jobs, to steal pieces of artwork, which are actually concealing a piece of a machine invented by Leonardo da Vinci that turns lead into gold, essentially, if I remember correctly.
Absolutely.
And so the story quickly picks up from New York to Europe, where he's stealing shit from the Vatican and the Louvre, and there's all sorts of different players at work. So there's him and Danny Aiello. There's the Vatican, which is represented largely by Andy McDowell.
Yep.
And then you've got Richard Grant and Sandra Bernhard, who are like super villains or something. Or they're corporate people. They're like business people who are going to use this to corner the market on gold or something.
Yeah. None of the stuff that he says makes sense, but at the same time, if you listen to any of Donald Trump's kind of self-masturbatory conversation, it actually kind of fits with the bullshit that he has come out with. Like, oh, yeah, he's just self-aggrandizing. Oh, I made my first billion by such and such. I had nothing but X, Y, and Z millions in the bank when I first started out. So I started from nothing. No,
you're right. That does fit well with the post-capitalism world we live in today.
Yeah.
There was also the other there was a bunch of hitmen or something, and like I couldn't figure out who side they were on.
Were, all named after like
candy bars, Butterfingers, and Kit Kat.
And it's so weird seeing David
Caruso, yeah. As one of them, he doesn't say anything. Like, it's always interesting when you see these big stars in early roles.
Yeah.
It's a bit like when you go back and you watch Coming to America or something. You're like, hey, that's Samuel L. Jackson in that 30 seconds.
Yeah. Like, wait, that's Halle Berry.
Yeah, or if you go back, or actually Coming to America has Cuba Gooding Jr. in a role with no lines.
Yeah.
It's a kid in a barber's chair. But yeah, and it's like, oh, where's David Caruso? He was just about to have a very big decade after this film was made. NYPD Blue, and then some bad movies. But yeah, and so I couldn't quite figure out exactly where those gangsters were, whose side they were on. They seemed to flip-flop quite regularly. And
yeah, I think they were officially part of the CIA, supposed to be making sure that the hang on, let me see if I can get their name right. The Mayflowers. They're supposed to be investigating the Mayflowers, and the CIA had involved the Vatican to try and help, because they had heard rumor that the Mayflowers were trying to build this gold-making machine, apparently. But little did the Vatican know that the Mayflowers had basically co-opted this group led by James Coburg to essentially be their government stooge. And that is all basically me filling in the blanks, because it doesn't spend much time actually doing any of that. It doesn't spend much time building any character. The only real character building you get is through Bruce Willis and Danny Aiello's conversation, which the two of them playing off of each other was absolutely delightful.
You can tell that they're real-life friends, right?
Like, yeah, 100%.
It's a very natural sort of connection the two of them had. I thought Bruce and Andy McDowell did quite well as a love interest. Andy has sort of an interesting sort of role for her. She's not quite the usual sort of boring damsel in distress that she tended to play so often in the early 90s. Yeah. She copped a bad rap. She was in that Tarzan film and they redubbed her. The Legend of Greystone.
Fuck!
The Christopher Lambert film.
Yeah.
Christopher Lambert, wasn't it? He played Tarzan.
Greystone.
Greystone, yeah. And they redubbed her with Glenn Close because they thought her accent was shit. And I'm like, I like her accent. I thought she was good in this. She's very, I mean, she was gorgeous in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And again, there's someone else who had a big decade coming. A couple of years later, she did Groundhog Day. So, but yeah, I thought she was okay. I mean, you're right, though. We didn't get a lot of about her story, other than the fact that she worked for the Vatican and and Bruce Willis was totally into her, which makes sense. But it's like I was just like going, you know what, you're right about halfway through when sort of double crosses start happening and they keep introducing new factions and new characters and new plot points. You're like, I give up. I'm just gonna enjoy the ride.
Like there is no explanation in the sequence where it's sort of like they're toying with the notion of sort of like Bruce Willis and Danny Aiello are reconnected, and it looks like Danny Aiello is working for the Mayflowers, and then there's that whole sequence where Tommy Five Tone is seemingly shot, and then it's revealed, spoilers for an old movie, that it was a setup. Like, who set that up? How did they plan that? What? None of it makes sense in timeline.
Yeah, the film does not stand up to a great deal of analysis. I mean, we've done it for about 15 minutes already. Interesting story behind the film, though, when you actually dig a little deeper. I was looking. It's directed by someone who I've not heard of before. His name, Michael Lehman.
Yeah.
And we have a look at his backstory. And he's involved.
He was once a gopher.
Yeah, he directed Heathers before this, the dark comedy, which I think is what got him this job. He's done a lot of TV, I think, these days. It's just safer. But sorry,
he did 40 Days and 40 Nights, The Truth About Cats and Dogs, Airheads.
Airheads was all right. There's a lot of romantic comedies in there.
Yeah, this is a bit of an unusual one.
I think if you look, I'm not sure who saw Heathers, like a very dark teen comedy, and gone, a major studio action comedy is what this guy should be doing. Yeah. But Heathers was a good film, and kind of maybe they saw something and that's what he made a job. But the more interesting story is that of the co-writer. This is written by Bruce Willis.
Yep.
And Robert Kraft. If you look
that's
at his
IMDb, why do I know it?
Well, it could be any number of reasons. The first thing I thought of was the Kraft family who owned the cheese, but don't think he's a part of it. But he's only ever written one film, and that's this film. But he has quite an involvement in the movie industry. I believe he was the head of the music department at 20th Century Fox for a number of years.
I know his name because...
Look at his music department credits, and he's got 133. He's got heaps of different things he's been involved in from a music perspective, and he is a musician. And that's how this film came to be. He was playing an open mic night or something, playing guitar. Okay. And someone jumped on stage with him and started playing harmonica along with him. And that person playing harmonica apparently was Bruce Willis. So they actually became fast friends as a result of this. And started hanging out. And apparently this guy wrote a song called Hudson Hawk. So there is a story here. It's going somewhere, I promise. Apparently is very famous cold wind blows in off a river in Chicago, and having been to Chicago and experienced some of that wind, it's fucked. And it's called the Hawk. It's a bit like in Perth as the Fremantle Doctor. So he was in New York one day walking against the freezing wind, and apparently thought, well, if they call that the Hawk, this must be the Hudson Hawk, because it comes in off the Hudson River. He wrote this song. Bruce Willis apparently helped him write the lyrics for it because he really liked the song. And he somehow decided to, maybe they were stoned or something, and they thought, you know what? This really average song that no one's ever heard of, this would make a great movie. And apparently they worked on it for years and years and years till the point where I guess Bruce was big enough.
Yeah.
Had enough clout in Hollywood to go, fuck you, you want another Die Hard film? We're making my
passion project.
And I don't know if that's actually what happened or not, obviously, but like, I can only imagine, it wasn't a particularly easy sell going, hi, I've got two, essentially, first-time screenwriters who've written this confusing mess of a picture, and now they would like, I've got no idea what the budget on this was, but a lot. A big budget to make this confusing mess, and they go, yeah, sure, no worries. Just because Bruce's name on the front of the poster would have helped. But at the same time, I can't imagine it was an easy sell.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is an unusual story about how a film actually came to be. And by the way, the budget was listed at $65 million.
Yep.
And the listed gross worldwide take was $17 million. So that was a lot of money back in the early 90s. So,
yeah, it was.
So anyway, but so you look at the guy and go, how is a guy with no screenwriting credits just to pop up once and never again? And I guess he learned his lesson.
Yeah, he's got his connections, and it's like, okay, fine, let's try it. Now, there are two key movies that we can either go to, and it depends on availability. So the movie that instantly came to mind that I want to follow on is Richard E. Grant. They're both Richard E. Grant. But I wanted to go to How to Get Ahead in Advertising, which is from 1989. It's directed by Bruce Robinson, who also did With Mel and I and The Rum Diaries with Johnny Depp more recently. And it is pure brilliant insanity from a time in British movie making where it's like, okay, we don't have big budgets like America, but we have really dedicated actors, and we're gonna go fucking weird with it. Richard E. Grant plays Dennis Dimbleby Bagley. What a name! It's fun when it's three names. He suffers a nervous breakdown while making an advert for pimple cream. Ward plays his long-suffering but sympathetic wife, and Richard Wilson plays John Bristol, Bagley's boss. And over the course of this breakdown, Richard E. Grant's character develops a boil, and he believes that it starts talking to him.
And someone was on some good drugs.
Yeah. And some of the shit that happens, just watching the trailer for this movie, you kind of go, what is the story here? I don't get it. What the fuck? It's a mind fuck. But unfortunately, from a bit of research, it looks like the only place to be able to get it digitally is via the Criterion Collection, which is not in Australia.
Or Pirate Bay.
Or Pirate Bay. The other
if you're not going to sell it to us, we will steal it.
Yeah. The other option is, of course, the classic With Mel and I, which is wonderful.
Well, so, I mean, I know your historic thoughts on the pirating industry, so let's go with Mel and I.
Okay. It is still written and directed by Bruce Robinson, which means that we can still make some interesting connections for later on as well. It co-stars Paul McGann, who was
Doctor Who.
Yes, he was in the lambasted Americanization of Doctor Who, where they had Eric Roberts playing the Master, and up until 3 years ago, I think it was now, that Doctor was never mentioned on the Doctor Who TV series, and they finally actually did this short film that connected it all with the main storyline, and suddenly you go, actually, that was really cool! They just fucked it up in the movie! And how dare they shoot my Doctor? Sylvester McCoy, damn it.
I'm just going to say this, though. I'm not watching the fucking Rum Diaries after this film. I'm not doing that again. I did that once. I watched that film once. It's a fucking joke of a movie. No.
Right.
It's really, really bad. Like, I was really looking forward to that movie, and I watched it. I'm like,
Especially considering I remember the pre-production for it. It was like, this is going to be almost like a spiritual continuation of, fuck, the name's completely gone out of my head.
Oh, Fear and Loathing?
Yes, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Like, no, it isn't. No.
Well, I just put my foot down, waggle my wig. I'm not doing it.
Right.
But yeah, With the Line should be a bit of a treat. I've seen this film many times already, and it'll be a treat to go back there again. You seem to have come on holiday by accident.
There's so many good movies. My brother is just obsessed with this movie, and anytime he was driving me around before I came to Australia, he would be speeding a little bit and be like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm making time." Then throwing themselves into the road gladly.
Oh yeah, but you drink that. The wankers drink that. The wankers can't afford this.
It's got to be done. If we had How to Get Ahead in Advertising, I would happily watch that again.
You won't sell shit to us.
Hopefully Criterion Collection will come here soon because they've got some amazing stuff there.
Is that a
quality of their
service?
reconstructions is amazing.
Is that a streaming service from the UK?
Well, the Criterion Collection was just a company that specialized in basically remastering and recreating.
Yeah, like Laserdisc and stuff like that back in the day.
Yeah, and they slowly but surely gathered their own library of these movies that they kind of built together. Like their copy of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was this awesome DVD collection, and it was just beautifully created. The audio was pitch perfect. The quality of the film was amazing. There was just so much care and attention done to it. It was wonderful. So if they put that's what they've done. They're sort of like they're a speciality house on just recreating these movies in the best possible light. Oh, there's some gold on there, I'm sure.
Now I'm going to go out on a limb because I know you had a busy weekend. Did you get to find the Nutty Professor?
I did not. Did not get a chance. That is my homework for this week.
Yes. We'll let you off because it was your kind of birthday. But I did my homework. Thank you very much, people. Mm-hmm. And I've watched a couple of different episodes now of Mob Psycho 100. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
I can see why you recommended it. But some of the animation kind of like, especially I was watching it again tonight, I'm like, some of the animation really does remind me quite a bit of One Punch Man.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the humor as well. I can see a very similar style of humor.
Yeah.
And parts of it actually kind of make me think sometimes of The Simpsons, and I'm not entirely sure why, but that's high praise. It is utterly silly, though. You kind of go, all right, I'll stick with it for now, because the actual writing and some of the characters are so likable that you kind of go, okay, well, I'll put up with this. So I guess for those who weren't listening last week, Mob Psycho 100 was a piece of homework George assigned me to basically, again, try and convince me that... well, I mean, in the sense that I find a little bit, most manga, a little bit overwrought, a little bit too serious, and, as a result, kind of not very interesting. But I did enjoy One Punch Man, which had kind of a fairly sarcastic, tongue-in-cheek tone, which is a little unusual for Japanese films and TV. So Mob Psycho 100 was George's recommendation as something I might like, and I can see why. It's so a psychic middle school boy tries to live a normal life and keep his growing powers under control, even though he constantly gets into trouble. So we follow the adventures of Mob, I guess. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Sometimes it's hard to follow his subtitles and stuff, but he works part-time after school for a local psychic who is a complete and utter fraud.
Yep.
Who has no psychic powers or at all. And basically, though, Mob is a very powerful psychic. And despite the fact he's getting paid virtually nothing and he's treated as a student or an intern by his boss, he's the one who ends up doing all the work in actually scaring off and beating off spirits and ghosts and monsters and stuff like that. all the while. But the funny thing, I think, is that his boss, whose name escapes me right now, fully realizes that he is a fraud, and that he has absolutely no abilities whatsoever.
Yeah.
And he kind of realizes his position he's in, and that he is completely dependent on Mob to basically take care of the actual ghosts and stuff, and his business basically relies on him. Yet he has this complete overwhelming arrogance that Mob should be sort of enthralled to him for he's agreeing to employ him and stuff like that, and teaching him secrets. So he's a brilliant scoundrel.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually quite fun to see the two of them together. And he's like, look, because you're quite new, I'll let you take care of the small fry. Wait a second. There we go. Sorry. Take care of a small fry in that tunnel over there when they're actually full of ghosts that he wouldn't dare to take on himself.
Yeah.
And he just tries to sell. He's trying to sell Mob like he's doing him a favor by letting him take on these ghosts when he's actually doing himself a favor. Yeah. Mob is kind of a cipher as a character. He really doesn't seem to have a lot of personality at all, but at least I'm only 2 episodes in.
His name as well.
Sorry?
The joke of his name is his Mob. He just blends into the crowd. No one ever pays him any mind. People rarely see him, and anytime the Espers... the other psychics that encounter him, they always underestimate him because he just looks so unassuming and so weak and pitiful. And the fact that there's the serious part of this is still kind of candy coated with silliness of him sort of having these really deep, interesting, genuinely kind of heartfelt conversations with Reagan, the fake. Talking about, you've got to find something that you're really passionate about and want to do it. And he's just sitting there, this unassuming young little kid, and he's like, I want to get muscles.
Yes. I think it's actually this would go well. I can see a live action remake of this doing very nicely if it was cast properly.
There is a live action version of it, a serialized one that's available on Netflix. It's not great.
If it was done properly, right, I can see, a funny sort of maybe like a Ryan Reynolds type person as the mentor.
Great as Reagan.
And if you could find a decent enough, probably Tom Holland's getting a little old now for that kind of thing, but someone of his kind of chops of sort of the innocence and sort of naivete that he puts into his Spider-Man role, I think would go well if you get that dynamic between the two of them, But yes, I can see why. At the same time, the animation I think is deliberately what's the word, over the top and deliberately in your face. I think it's actually kind of a piss take on your typical sort of manga style thing of in the second episode, the president of a telepathy club was screaming at her club members to find new people so they don't lose their club rooms, and then just the way it would zoom in on her face and her screaming and it was actually kind of amusing. It's wow, this is really in your face, but I think it knows it's doing it for a reason. It's not doing it for a cheap laugh. It goes this is what this is kind of I think a piss take on the whole genre to a degree.
But do you think you're going to stick around with it?
I might watch a few more episodes. I've got to be in the right mood for it, I think. Honestly, in the world we live in today, more often than not, I think I've seen the meme on Netflix on Facebook a few times. Netflix needs to introduce a category which is something that's easy to ignore while you put it on the background while you just look at your phone for an hour. And this is most certainly not that, because obviously I don't speak Japanese, so I need to pay attention the whole time and read the subtitles. I suspect I'll watch a few more episodes. They're nice bite-sized episodes, and it's light, it's amusing, it's kind of funny. like I said, I kind of get what it's trying to do.
Mm.
So, I mean, it's either that or I downloaded 9 seasons of The Simpsons last week, and it's like,
Why?
The first 9 seasons, though.
Okay, yeah, but I don't know if I'd go as far as 9.
Oh, I think it was still reasonable up to about season 10. I think season 10, 9, 10 is about where it started to really lose the plot.
I think I got the DVD collections up to season 10. Back in the UK.
Well, you're talking about shows that you can put on in the background and ignore while you're on your phone.
That is true.
Well, having seen it so many times now, that's it. So it is kind of nice to be challenged with something a little bit new and a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where Mob Psycho comes in. So yeah, I guess if you're like me and you are not a fan of manga, and you're curious to try it out. This is more your TV style manga if you don't want to commit to a full 2-hour film. Maybe this one seems like a reasonable entry point if you can get past some of the crazy animation and the over the top acting, if you will, and know that's there for a reason. I recommend it.
Yeah, cool. Good. That's kind of how I thought you'd see it. So, hey. As for me, I got to watch a couple of relatively new releases on streaming. And the one that I really want to talk about is Gemini Man.
Oh, okay.
Will Smith versus Will Smith. And this is a bizarre movie because it's so bad. And yet it's got a lot of talent in it. It's directed by Ang Lee. It's got Will Smith in it. It's got Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who I genuinely, not just because I absolutely love her, but I genuinely think she's the best part of this whole movie. It's got Clive Owen being Clive Owen. And it's got Benedict Wong, who most people will probably know as Doctor Strange's friend.
He's named Wong, right, in Doctor Strange?
Yeah.
I think he was also in the IT crowd.
Yeah, he was in that movie.
He was in the Countdown episode.
Yeah. He's been in a few things, so you'll definitely recognize him. But this is a movie that was originally conceived back in 1997. It was in development hell for over 20 years with Tony Scott, Curtis Hanson, Joe Carnahan involved, Harrison Ford, Mel Gibson, even Sean Connery. It's kind of been all over the place. It was at Disney, ended up at Skydance and Paramount, and this... I think the worst problem with this movie is it was designed and filmed for 120 frames per second.
And it was shot really weirdly, right, wasn't it?
Yeah. And one of the problems that movie format creates when it's not a 3D screen and you're not experiencing it the way that technology has been so kind of acutely focused, designed to be good in, it just looks really trashy, and so much of it, even the sequences that I'm pretty sure were actually shot on location, it looks like it's a green screen because it just, the edging around all of the axes just looks so hard, and it just feels like you're being pulled out of it. The de-aging on Will Smith is pretty good, but it's also, well, okay, when everyone thinks of a young Will Smith, they think instantly of the Fresh Prince. And this character of young Will Smith in this movie he's been purposefully kind of removed that emotional attachment side. So the charisma that Will Smith is known for, that likability, is just not there. That passion is not there. It's like, okay, so this is supposed to be one of the serious Will Smith movies then. But we're talking about him versus him. Okay. Wait, what's the story here? Doesn't matter.
It's like they just needed trying to assassinate someone in the past or something.
Huh?
It's like an assassin they sent back to kill him.
It's not sent back.
Yeah.
He's just a clone.
Clone, that's right. Yeah.
And then by the end of it, that you find out there's another clone that has had all emotion removed and all pain removed, and in theory, it's kind of a good idea, but in practice, it's pointless, and it feels so boring because so many movies have done similar things. Like even fucking Arnie has done it with the 6 Day movie, and There have been so many, oh my god, so-and-so is cloning so-and-so. Like, the fucking Island did it. And the Island actually played with that notion better. Michael fucking Bay? Come on. There's just... I think the fact that this movie, so many of the movies that have been in development hell end up not being very good because when they're originally in there, they're a hot property, people steal those ideas, go off and make those movies. And that source material, the godfather of this sequence, shall we say, is when it eventually makes its way out of the birthing canal, it's suddenly, yeah, well, we've seen this.
Or in this case, I've often heard it said, I saw a lot of reviews of this film when it came out, a lot of times that people were like, it was more like a technical demo almost. It's like Ang Lee kind of did it to see if he could. Hey, what would a movie look like if we shot it in this really bizarre way, but no one else shoots movies? It would look like a piece of shit. Okay, well, now we know.
And it's a similar problem with the Hobbit movies, because they were shot at 60 frames a second, and it had that, it just looked weird when it wasn't being viewed in 3D. And it's just that I genuinely don't understand the point of it, because the human eye can't understand 120 frames a second. It can't see it. So why are we filming that?
It seemed to be an exercise in what would it look like, can we do this?
Yeah. I think it's like, okay, we're just going to push the boundaries of this format as far as we possibly can go and see what happens. Okay, that's fine, but if you're going to do that, at least make your movie interesting, because otherwise it is a technical demo. And okay, this is kind of how I felt with Solaris, the Steven Soderbergh movie. It was kind of interesting concept. It looked beautiful. They were trying new things. Gravity, in a similar sense, it was that notion of having just one shot. But it was okay.
Sometimes it works.
Technically interesting things.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. 1917 was another one of those experiments in let's see if we can film a movie like as if it's not just one shot, but as if it is. You know, and they'll tell it. I mean, it's been actually done. There is actually a film out there that goes for a feature film, which is one take and one shot, and that's Russian Ark.
Which was phenomenal.
It is, but it is kind of boring. I mean, like, if you don't speak Russian...
Technically, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, you're not going to do that in the feature. You can try.
No, I'd release one.
But yeah, so they do work occasionally, but there is a massive risk involved, and sometimes you got to stand back and go, why has nobody else shot a film like this? Maybe. Just maybe there's a very good reason for that.
Yeah. I understand where you might want to, where the aesthetics of a product are very important, like Sin City. The look of that was Robert Rodriguez went, I want to transplant those comic panels by Frank Miller onto the screen and animate them, essentially. And he did. It was groundbreaking at the time. It looked awesome. The first one was great. Snappy, awesome. The second one took too long to come out. Okay, this isn't actually a very interesting collection of stories. They've not done a very good job of integrating it. It somehow doesn't look quite as good as the first one, and don't even get me started on the Spirit.
I mean, and interesting, Ang Lee has some form in this space. He was, of course, the director of the original Hulk film with Eric Bana, which was shot in a very unusual style. He had an idea of kind of shooting them like comic panels, when sort of sliding along like as if you were reading a comic book.
Sequences through that. I really love that because it was a totally different way of shooting a superhero movie. I understand why it fails because it's not what people want.
Nobody else liked it, but yeah. So he's someone of these guys who pushes the boundaries a little bit on these sorts of things. And sometimes you win, life of pi. And sometimes you come up well short, like we have in this one, or the Hulk back in 2003.
Yeah,
the 2003 sounds about right. But I haven't seen it, but it's got such a tragic rating on the internet. So I kind of go, is there any enjoyment to be had here?
Again, like I said at the start of the kind of review, I guess, Mary Elizabeth Winstead remains solid throughout it. She has a few action sequences, and this partnered with, I feel like she was one of the best female characters in the Harley Quinn movie. She was confident.
Way more screen time in that movie.
Fight sequences. I think that she has the potential to do any role that she wants. She was fantastic in Cloverfield Lane. She can do action sequences really well. She's good at comedy. I just really want to see her get a movie that just shoots her to the fucking forefront, because I think she's deserving of it. I think she's got the ability to actually pull it off. But aside from that, everything's very Will Smith seems to kind of be slouching slowly and surely into kind of Harrison Ford territory, where it's like, okay, he's trading on his own name and he's not really caring.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a hot minute. But yeah, there's nothing inherently bad about it. It's just none of it really adds up to anything being good or engaging. It feels laborious watching it. And this is an action movie. Well, it's supposed to be an action movie that has Will Smith, one of the original new generation superstars.
There was a moment in time where he could do no wrong.
Yeah. But no. However, my other movie that I want to really kind of delve into a little bit was It Chapter 2.
Okay. Now, I've heard a lot of people say this is nowhere near as good as Chapter 1.
They are 100% right. The biggest problem with this movie is it's so slow. Every single one of the adult characters in it, adult actors, does a really good job of being a very believable grown-up version of the kids from Chapter 1. And they really unlearned it. They obviously knew that they had kind of struck gold in that first one with those kids doing great performances in those roles. They inject so much flashback stuff to kind of fill in some of the gaps that they didn't. They thought, we can inject that in. And it just makes the whole movie feel so fucking long. And was it Alexander Skarsgård?
Yes.
Yeah. As Pennywise, he is as good as he was, but
Bill Skarsgård. Sorry.
Which one?
It's Bill, I think.
Oh, yes, Bill Skarsgård. Sorry. Yeah, he's as great as he was, but he's painfully underused, and there's more CGI on.
This movie is 2 hours and 49 minutes.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Really fucking long, and that's not even the director's cut or anything like that. That was the theatrical release. It's long and it's slow.
Way too long. I haven't even seen it, and it's way too long.
Yeah. Which is a real shame, because they really did so well with the first one. And this one, they cast it great. The director overall controls the scenes and makes the scary elements quite scary. They are still very much in line with the first one, but everything, just the pace of it is just so draining. You kind of come out of it going, that wasn't emotionally tiring, but it was just physically exhausting.
Well, this is a half hour longer than the first one. That was 2 hours, 15 minutes. And that one was probably had a bit of fat you could have cut out of it too.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one nonetheless. So, it's just classic Hollywood style. Hey, first one made a shit ton of money. Everybody liked it. I'm just going to do that and even do even more of that.
And they did this weird self-referential thing in it as well, where James McAvoy's character is back in Derry. And he walks past this kind of odds and sods shop, and he sees his bike, the silver, Hi-Ho Silver, or whatever he calls it, I can't remember. And he goes in and he says, how much for the bike? And the guy serving him is Stephen King. And Stephen King actually does a good job of being this cantankerous old bastard in a shop. But there's this ongoing comedy moment where people are saying, Bill, you don't know how to finish a book, which is one of the regular problems that people always levy against Stephen King stuff. And the fact that Stephen King is saying, I don't think we stuck the landing, is like, okay, cool, yeah, but you don't need this. Fuck off. Speed up the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't. You don't need those sort of things in there where you're at 2 hours 49 minutes. That's self-indulgent, and that probably didn't help, right? Because the second half of the book has always been the less interesting part of the book.
Yeah.
Like if you go back to the 1990 miniseries, which I still think is pretty good in hindsight.
Yeah. With the young Seth Green.
And of course Tim Curry's amazing performance as Pennywise.
Yeah.
I remember it was shown over 2 nights here in Australia. Everybody shat themselves after the first night. Like, it was like, my God, this is next level scary. And then you watch the second half and you're like, giant spider, whatever.
Yeah.
It just seems it's infinitely less scary because they're not kids anymore. They seem more capable now they're adults. They'll be, they've got more chance of not being taken down by this thing. And so immediately, just the general nature of the setting makes it less terrifying. And then, of course, as you said, Stephen King really doesn't know how to end a book very well. So the story just kind of peters out into it's a big monster. So it already had an uphill battle. The first one was brilliant. The material you're dealing with isn't as strong.
Yep.
Traditionally, it's not been the best part of the actual story. And now you're going to chuck in an extra 30 minutes of shit that doesn't need to be there on top of the first film.
Yeah.
It doesn't... That would explain to me...
If they went through and just were brutal with cuts, it would be more palatable and people would probably just generally be able to enjoy it more and appreciate the quality of the actors on display, because all of them are delivering really good performances, really strong performances, but it's just so laborious. And so, okay, we're still not done with the scene? Fuck me, Jesus, okay, move on. And I feel like almost, if they ever go back and redo it, they need to swap it and just almost fucking Memento it and do it in reverse, so that it ends with the really terrifying stuff and the kids defeating the monster, and you already have that feeling of you would end that second movie with the feeling of dread because you've seen they didn't finish it. They had to go through it again. They went through all this stuff, and with the stuff they went through as adults, holy shit, it's even worse when they were kids? Fuck. I feel like it would make the audience really engage with it even more. But it's a weird way to tell a story.
Yeah. And, I mean, let's face it, it ain't going to get redone anytime soon, considering it's just being done. So I'm interested to see what they do with his remake of The Stand. That's one I'm definitely... Times are right for a film about a deadly virus.
Oh, yes. The last thing I just want to touch on, because it has recently just come back into sort of like the newsworthy conversation. Good old Sylvester Stallone. He really doesn't know when to leave.
I read today he was talking about maybe doing another Rambo movie.
Exactly. I got around to watching Rambo, Last Blood, and now there's probably going to be a sequel. And this actually is not a bad movie. Sylvester Stallone has worked out with, like, I decided to just watch a bunch of the Expendables movies as well. He knows how to make a quality B movie. That's sort of like, yep, this is a movie that I can put on in the background. I don't really need to follow it. It's got some action in it. It's got that nostalgia of, Sly Stallone, cool. None of it is bad. It's just entirely filler. And it's weird how they're saying, oh yeah, Last Blood. Okay. And we're back to war. They're like, Last Blood, what's the next one going to be? Rambo, Final Drops?
Rambo, Last Blood, Part 2.
Oh, fuck no. Don't put that shit out there.
Well, it's got a 6.2 as an audience score, and it's 26 Metascore on IMDb, so...
I think that's pretty fair.
26 or a 6?
Huh?
I would say a 6.2 is a lot higher than a 26.
Well, I think that the 6.2 is fair, because it doesn't do anything wrong. It is pointless. There's no denying that. But much like Hudson Hawk or fucking Gemini Man, okay, they're not actually making any mistakes here. They chose this style and they're doing it well. They're not making sort of movie faux pas or anything like that. They're not being bad. There's an interesting story arc when you look at the development of the character of Rambo from First Blood to Last Blood. It's like, okay, that's an interesting storyline that he's gone on, and a character arc over 6 movies or however many it is now. It's not as bad as the 29.
I haven't seen any since the first one, but I'm not hanging out to see any. Actually, I've never.
You don't
I thought the
need
first
to
Rambo.
watch
First one was good.
Mm.
The rest of them just look like shit.
Yeah, they pretty much are. They get the second and the third one are really bad, and then the fourth one, I think that was where it's like ridiculously swollen Stallone, obviously just carrying so much water in his body to make him look tough, and he's back in Vietnam, I think, or Cambodia or something like that, maybe. And it's all like, okay, this is ridiculous. And then this one, he's kind of a cowboy. It's like, all right, we're going into multiverse Rambo. And there's going to be a tear in reality next time. And it's just going to be a weird retelling of Jet Li's The One, where we're going to get a singularity on Sylvester Stallone. It's going to be a bizarre amalgamation of him.
Don't give him any ideas. They'll have the Rambo extended universe with like freaking John McClane and shit in it.
I wouldn't be surprised if it actually goddamn happens, because they were with fucking Expendables. They're like, oh yeah, this guy from the late 70s, early 80s, he's not really had much luck. Let's just put him in a movie. See what happens. Oh, people kind of like that. Yeah, okay. You've got a bit more work. You can satisfy your drug habit a little bit longer.
Well, I was reading today there was talk that there's been, whether it actually happened or not, there's talk of a crossover film between Charlize Theron's character in Atomic Blonde and John Wick.
See, I like that idea because Charlize Theron is a good actress, but Atomic Blonde was not a good movie.
I didn't like it at all. I left early, actually. I walked out of that.
Yeah.
Or drove out of it because it was driving. But, no, I wasn't excited by that. But the only one that's actually heard that actually excited me was the long defunct rumor that the last Beverly Hills Cop film is going to be a Crocodile Dundee Axel Foley crossover. That would have been fucking awesome.
That's so stupid.
Peak 80s.
Yeah.
It would have worked. It could have worked.
It could have worked. They've definitely missed their chance. Unless the next Bill and Ted movie is so good and people go, okay, we are just investing in a new 80s era.
I would put it, they're basically the Coming to America sequels in the can.
Yeah. So
that's not beyond the realms of possibility.
That can't be a good movie, surely.
It can't be a good movie, but I'm going to see it anyway.
It's because you're a weird man.
Yeah, I liked the first one a lot.
The first one's great. But there's no way this one's going to be any good.
Morbid curiosity. I was always going to see Ghostbusters 2016. Always. Despite the fact I widely said I thought it was going to be a pile of shit. The trailer sucked. Everything else about it looked awful. But I was going to see it.
We are the ultimate optimists. We can see a pile of shit in the road years ahead. But we're still sort of like, maybe it'll get out of the way.
Right? You're going to be fair and go, okay, it looks like a giant steaming turd, but there's only one way to be sure.
Yeah.
And especially if a film as controversial as that one was, you've got to go in and go, I got to give this a chance.
Yeah.
And the film, you love the original, you just got to kind of, if I ever make a fourth Indiana Jones film, I'm probably going to see it just out of curiosity.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. It was weird. It was like I was checking on, I think it was Stan, and they had like the first 3, and then they had a fan-made one.
No, right, a fan film. Okay, well, it's kind of nice to get the fan film out there.
Well, it's nice that they're putting fan movies on Stan and stuff. It's kind of cool.
I just got one streaming shout out if you've got nothing else.
Go for it.
Is the new series of Unsolved Mysteries.
No, this is the Netflix one?
It's on Netflix. So you want old school Unsolved Mysteries, like the 80s shit, it's actually on Prime. But it's a new reboot made for Netflix. It's 6 episodes, I think, I fucking loved it.
Okay.
Loved it. Chewed through them all in a day. Except for one episode is about UFOs, which is actually kind of a nice nod to the original. I kind of remember the original being about like a bit like, Australia's Most Wanted, America's Most Wanted, but now I go back and watch the old episodes on Prime. Sometimes there are a hell of a lot of ghosts and UFOs on that show.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is kind of goofy. So it was kind of a nice throwback to the original to go, here's the stupid, goofy episode that you can just ignore. The UFO episode was ridiculous, but the rest of it are standard true crime kind of thing, unsolved mysteries, as they say. You usually have people who are murdered, who have disappeared, and that kind of thing. And some of it's like, I'm a huge fan of true crime, so that really did it for me. And I hadn't heard of any of these cases before. The case in episode 1 is a real mind bender. It's a real mind bender. I would, if you have any interest in true crime type shit at all, it's really well packaged up. I've heard some people on Reddit talking about it, go, they cut this bit out, they cut that bit out, but I mean, that's, the nature of television, right? You can't cover the whole thing sometimes. But it's, unfortunately, it doesn't have a host quite like, I don't know if you ever watched the original, but...
Yeah, what was the name of that
Robert
guy?
Stack.
Yes!
From he was from the Untouchables.
Yes!
And he'd be like, UFOs over London. He'd be like, he had that kind of mysterious voice, and unfortunately, he'd be like hanging around train stations and shit, doing the announcing or out in the field somewhere. He doesn't have that, but the voiceover, I guess they didn't feel like I needed it. But yeah, if you like the originals, if you like true crime, I think you're really, really going to dig this. They really get your teeth into it. Like I said, I burned through it. I was so disappointed there are only 6 episodes.
Still, at least 6 quality episodes.
That's always the thing is, like, yes, there are 400 million episodes of Big Bang Theory, but, only 8, 9 new episodes of Rick and Morty a year. But, quality, you can't deliver that kind of quality in that kind of quantity sometimes.
Now, this is just sparked in my memory. What was the one that Jonathan Frakes kind of introduced?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember. It was similar. It was like the dollar store version of Unsolved Mysteries.
Because I remember watching that because I obviously got to know Jonathan Frakes from The Next Generation. And then it's like, oh, he's doing this serialized show of sort of like real stuff?
Beyond belief?
Yes, beyond belief. Oh, shit. I have gone back and seen some of that. I think I saw something like last year or something. Oh, no, I'm very much rose-tinted beer glasses on this bad boy because that is not good. There's an episode of Family Guy where it ends with Peter Griffin just constantly kind of striking this pose, leaning on things, and like just making this statement. And it's kind of like that every time Jonathan Frakes is on screen. It's like, have you ever sent an email?
Believe it or not, you're wrong. I get the same thing when I watch the old episodes of Unsolved Mysteries. So I think what I enjoy most about them is the really cheap, badly made reenactments from the old Unsolved Mysteries. They don't do those anymore. There were no reenactments in the new series. But like even Matthew McConaughey was like a murderer in one of them, like back in the 80s sometime, I think. And usually he's the only well-known actor I've seen pop up in one of them. But usually they're really cheaply, badly made reenactments of people who don't look anything like the actual victims, and it's like student filmmaking doing it. But then you just skip over the bits that have wacky UFOs and ghosts and shit like that. But and sometimes it's just kind of fun to sit there with your phone and go type in the case and go, oh, they found the guy. 20 years later. But, I remember that Jonathan Frakes one being, it's kind of like a knockoff version of Unsolved Mysteries or Believe It or Not.
Yeah. But this is actually worthwhile.
This one I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really nicely put together. It didn't have those cheesy reenactments. They seem to be talking to the right kind of people in that sense. Families of people and, I wouldn't say it's entirely what's the word? On the fence about some of these things. It's quite obvious about they're kind of going, they're interviewing people who are close to one of the victims, and they're like going, what's fucking him? Like the way they're selling it, and you're like, I think I'm supposed to think that guy did it, but, whatever. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it immensely, and like I said,
Good.
it kind of made me go down the rabbit warren on YouTube trying to find something similar that I could watch because I was so in the mood for more.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good sign, right?
Yeah. I think if you come away from something saying "give me more," it's a good sign. And if you have to resort to watching Jonathan Frakes, then you're really jonesing.
I didn't get that bad. Didn't go that far down the rabbit hole.
Just wait. Lockdown
now it's in my head. I might.
Just think of that sultry beard. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think that's good for me. It would be a shortish episode this week. It's a merciful one for our listeners.
Of course, yeah. So, obviously, thank you everyone for joining us and listening along in the cars a week from now. Next week, we are going to be talking about With Mel and I, and if we are able to get hold of how to get ahead in advertising, we might talk about that too. But With Mel and I is going to be the big chain movie for next week.
And he's going to talk about the Nutty Professor.
I am going to talk about the Nutty Professor. I am planning on actually enjoying that tonight, I think, while I'm curled up in bed. It's fucking cold in King Lake.
It is chilly. It is chilly.
Yes. There may also be some early thoughts on Paper Mario Origami King from me on Nintendo Switch next week, depending on if it comes out at the right time and if I get a chance to play it. So, my hopes are not high. Huh?
That is something to look forward to.
And my hopes are not high because a lot of the Paper Mario stuff is generally kind of crap and designed for very, very young players. But it looks interesting. Might give it a go.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
In Nintendo, we trust.
In Nintendo, we do trust. Although they are very quiet. But there may also be stuff that we can talk about. Because I think on the 13th or 14th next week, there's that Xbox are going to do a proper unveiling of the next console and stuff.
Series X.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what that's like, and we might have some discussion points on that.
For sure.
But until then, ladies and gentlemen, we will try and be back to our regular Wednesdays. It's just been crazy recently, but because of COVID, I've got shorter trading hours, so I should be back in time. Hooray! Hooray for COVID! But until next time, thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye.